Finding yourself lost in finding ways to be found, getting into your mind, lost in. Hey, everybody. Yes,
I'm
we
sorry.
are. You know where we are? Betty, you know where we are? We're in Lost in the Groove.
Hey,
We're about to have an incredible experience for the next hour with Betty. So let me ask you something. And before we even start with, one thing that drew me more than anything was the spark of creativity, the way of making art together,
mm,
you know, creating that experience. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like the background of it and where exactly did it start?
so we started as kids, and my sister we're like 6 years apart, and she would draw on my homework, she would type on my homework, and so I was always frustrated by that. And then one day it occurred to me, like, wait a minute, she's actually typing words because she was pretty much nonverbal, didn't really say a whole lot. And I'm like, wait, she's typing words. These are actual words. She's saying she wants to go shopping. And I was like, wait, there's somebody in there. And before, it was just kind of an epiphany. So I at the time I was with my grandparents, and I went to my grandmother and I said, hey, look. And she was like, I told you, put your homework away so that she doesn't mess with it. I'm like, no, look. She's drawing. There's art. There's words. And she was like, you're right. So it just kind of started from there. She was drawing on my homework. And so my suggestion was that she get her own typewriter so that she could communicate better with us. And she get her own notebook so that she could write us notes. And it just kind of went from there. She would draw her little characters or hearts or flowers. And we would respond that way. And I just started drawing with her. We would just sit for hours in our grandparents' home and just draw because, our mom was at work a lot and we were with our grandparents. And so that's how it started. It's just us drawing on notebook paper as kids.
It's really interesting because as children, you're always all over the place. You're like little sponges. You want to learn everything, experience everything, be everywhere, see everything.
Yeah.
And it's really special that, when you are able to make this break through connection, especially with your siblings. Because let's be honest, a lot of us don't always have the greatest relationships with our
Of
siblings.
course.
And it's not always just because of words, it's also because of the way of how we feel.
Right.
And just to create that environment for the two of you, to be able to communicate in a really beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pictures.
Yeah. And she was obsessed with smoking, so she started drawing the smoking women as a child. Our grandparents, or our grandmother and my uncle, they both were smokers, and she was just like so fascinated by that. And she tried to grab the cigarette out of the ashtray and run and take a puff before anybody could catch up with her. And it was just a really, fun interaction. And in those days, there wasn't a whole lot known about autism. And so it was thought that the mother had something to do with it. It was because of how she was raising the child. And I mean, we're older women now. And so then there just wasn't a whole lot known, and there wasn't a whole lot being done. And so families had to basically figure it out themselves. And we didn't have a lot of people, a lot of kids that were allowed to interact with us because they were afraid. They didn't know, what to expect. Or is my child going to get autism too? Is there something wrong with their mom? All these crazy notions that now we know a lot better about. But then we didn't, because it was 1 in 10,000 people who were diagnosed with autism. Now it's like 1 in 10. I just read that statistic the other day, 1 in 10.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, from my own personal experience, I was born in the I was born in 1999. I grew up in the early 2000s, and I have dyslexia and I have learning disabilities. And maybe it's just on my end because I went to private schools. I did not there was no understanding. There was like complete
Right,
blindness of like, oh, you're like why aren't you like everybody else? Because I'm not like everybody
right.
else. Why can't you read 1,000 pieces of words in 4 hours? I don't. It it's I can completely understand that 100%. Like, just is that what it is? Blindness, just complete not seeing what's
Just
reality.
a just not a disassociation of what's really going on, and I just think
Disassociation, yeah, that's
it's
better.
like
Yeah.
so much of it was just people didn't know. They didn't. I mean, there was no information. There was no Google. You're going to the library looking it up, but there was like so little information. I mean, there was no place in Oklahoma that even served people with autism, and so really,
Really? How long ago
and
was
so
the
it was
how long
like
ago was
60s,
this?
60s. I mean, she was born in 1966. So yeah, so it's been a while, but at the same time, there was nothing here. We would go to these little counseling sessions, and I mean, they didn't know what to do. It was like they just kind of look at her. She'd sit there and write notes and draw, and it was just like, wow, we have no idea. We don't know what to do. We can't help you. So
Crazy.
it's just exactly crazy.
But you know what? If you think about it though, 1960s wasn't that long
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, compared to, but the most fascinating thing that I feel is look how much we've gone
Yeah.
since then. I mean, it's only been what, 50 odd
Yeah.
years?
Yeah. So a lot has been learned, a lot more is known. It's a lot more,
Right.
people are much more accepting. Nobody's going to say, oh, she's not welcome here. You're not going to get all that sort of negative things that we experienced as children.
But you really were at that period where you had to figure things out for yourself. I mean, for the both of you
Right.
and as a
Right.
family. I mean, because yeah, there's no resources.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So yeah, that was it was interesting. It's still kind of interesting, but it was really interesting then to the dynamic between family and extended family and all of that. But like years later, I got a degree in fashion design and couldn't
Ooh.
find a job. And all that from just drawing on notebook paper with my sister, just imagine. But wanted to go to school to be a fashion designer. I went to private school, so I wore uniforms, and so I was obsessed with clothing because I didn't get to wear it. I had those, wore those plaid uniforms. Did you wear a plaid uniform as well when you were in school? See,
No, when I went to, so I grew up in a Jewish home. I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish home.
okay,
And we went to yeshiva, and we had, I love fashion too. And I wear colorful button down shirts, flashy pants, especially when I go to work. And I totally like feel it's because of, we had to wear white and black.
yeah,
So it was white shirt, black pants. And I was like, ugh,
yeah,
yuck.
yeah. And so you're looking
I
at
want
Vogue
purple.
and you're
I
looking
want
at
blue.
GQ and you're
Yes.
looking at everything and you're just like
Yes.
obsessed looking at
Yes.
catalogs and you're just trying to find that connection because you want and you want to be able to dress different. You can't, you're looking so forward to the day when you no longer have to dress like that. So all these things, and
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
that was my out. I wanted to do fashion design, and I went to school. I moved to Texas, went to a small school there, and I couldn't find a job. So I did, other things. I pursued other interests. And about 15 years later, I was a flight attendant and I was injured during turbulence. And during the years, during that time, I would do like freelance illustrating for people I had gone to school with or people I met. And I never really, I saw myself as an illustrator. I never saw myself as anything beyond that. Like I can paint or I can, do anything. But one day I was like really upset. It had been about 4 months since I had had my injury, and I saw my orthopedic physician, and he was like, "I have no idea when you're gonna go to be able to go back to work." And he's like, "Before you even ask me, every time you come in here, you're saying, 'When can I go back to work?' And I don't know, so don't ask me." And I just started crying. I'm like crying, like, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "It's only been 4 months." I'm like, "But still, I don't know. I'm so worried."
They don't get it.
Like,
They don't
what's
get
going to
it.
happen to me? What am I going to do? And so he called my physician. I didn't know this, but he called my primary care, and I had an appointment to see her the next day. So when I saw her, I brought in some photos of some illustrations I had done. And she was like, "Yeah, I heard about you yesterday, all upset. What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back to work, and I don't know what's going to happen to me." And she's like, she took the photos that I brought to show her and she stuck them in my face. And she was like, "You'll do this. You'll do this. What are you worried about? You'll do this." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "This is what I want you to do. I want you to paint. I want you to start painting. Use that as therapy, and let's just see what happens." And I was like, "Okay." I left there thinking she was crazy. So the next day, though, I went and bought paint and art supplies, and I started painting and started getting positive, response right away, got commissions. And I was like, "You know what? I can do this. We can do this. I can do this with my sister." And I started a line of note cards. That's how it started. I started a line of note cards that featured our art on them. And pretty soon people were asking for our originals and, "Hey, we, do original art." And it just kind of grew from there.
It's really beautiful. It's kind of like it's being able to see what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
It, I kind of use this podcast as
Hmm.
therapy. I feel like this is my art
Hmm.
form, and in a way, it's so beautiful when you have like when you do a painting, especially like you're doing with your sister,
Hmm.
and you have it out in an art gallery, or it's just out in a venue or
Right.
whatever, and you have people that come over.
Hmm.
They start talking to you, and they start getting curious, and they start to ask questions. Why does those things happen to us people? And I think the reason is that when you see an image,
Hmm.
when you see something that's made by people,
Hmm.
there's a spark of fascination that grows in us of curiosity.
Hmm. I believe you're right.
It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
Uh, and she has gotten to do like shows all over the country. And then in 2014, she did a show over in London for Autism Awareness Month. So she has done a whole, like even more than I've done, but it's just the idea of us showing our art together. I mean, we're still together after all these years, we're still doing the same thing we started as kids on notebook paper. But now it's on canvas and she still likes to draw on notebook paper. I mean, that's her preferred, she if she had a choice, if I wasn't saying, "Hey, let's do it on some canvas or let's do it on some plain drawing paper," if I wasn't saying that, she is on that notebook paper. She wants to paint or draw on notebook paper still. It's like how she started. She doesn't want to change that.
I think that I think that brings in like a sense of genuine,
Hmm.
like being as genuine to your craft as you can be. Especially as an artist, there's one thing you always prefer over anything. I can tell you perfect personally, I love ink. I love Japanese
Hmm.
ink on really thick paper. Oh, that is my go-to. Give me thick paint and an ink pen. I'm gone for days.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like every artist has that, but it's interesting what each artist has, like the notepad and just a regular ballpoint pen. It's So random, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful. When you when you find yourself and your sister being able to create this together, what exactly did you do? Like, did you create a business for yourself?
Yes.
And where exactly did that start?
It started back like about 4 years after I had my injury. I started, well, right, when I started to get the positive feedback from what I was doing with my stuff in Dallas when I was still in Texas, I started thinking about like how can, because one day I knew I was going to be, her caregiver if anything happened, to our mother. So I started thinking about like how do we transition and what do we do and how do we, present ourselves then? And so we started, like I said, with a line of note cards and did that until for about 5, 6 years until I actually, our mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer and I moved back to Oklahoma. And so then we were able to expand on that to where we were doing original art, we're doing art shows, we're doing just the whole gamut of
What kind of art shows were you doing?
just local group shows with just local artists.
Like what kind of when you say local
Like, oh, you mean
shows,
like
like what kind of
kind of
environment?
venues? Is that what you're okay? So like galleries,
Yeah.
local galleries.
And how did that go for the two of you? Like, what was your experience with the people that were coming there, the people you were talking with?
It was good. People are fascinated by what, not so much me, but what my sister creates. It's like there's such a negative connotation associated with developmental disabilities and to a certain extent, and so people are fascinated by it. People are fascinated. They want to hear the story, like why smoking, why cigarettes, why is she draw, why is she painting women smoking, why does she paint, she loves purple flowers, why is she painting that? And the only thing I could think of is growing up, our grandparents had purple flowers in their garden, and so it has to be something connected to that, you know but it was.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this applies, but I can tell you from my own a friend of mine has this, and she explains it better than I can. For example, for me, the way that I remember
Hmm.
things is by smell, color, and feel.
Hmm.
So I have to be able to smell it, I have to see the color of it, and I have to feel it. So I feel that kind of tremors in art, you always have people asking, "Oh, why does Van Gogh use, this type of style, construct, this type of paint, this type of landscape over and I think it's because it's something that is
Right.
memorized
Resonate.
and it's easy to flow with. Oh, purple flowers. Oh, the lawn. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, you hear what I'm
Oh,
saying?
of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like did anybody give over to you anything like in regards to um what I'm trying to honestly what I'm trying to ask is cuz especially art inspires something in all of
Hmm.
us. And when you're creating your own style of art, there's a feeling that's like in the room. There's always a different feeling. What kind of feeling do you get, especially when you're around that art, and especially when you're with your sister, and when you have people around?
Upbeat, accomplished, you know, fairy tale. It's like I'm dreaming, is this really happening? People are, I mean, it's like growing up, we're drawing on notebook paper. Who would have ever imagined in their wildest dreams, really, that we'd be selling art to people? You think it's a passing phase that you're going through, and you never really, I don't know, I saw myself more as an illustrator than ever being in a gallery. Does that make sense? And so
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't really know. I think I was just the fascination with clothing and the obsession with clothing. So I saw myself more as an illustrator, fashion illustrator, working in the fashion industry, not necessarily doing gallery shows or having cards or totes or pillows or anything, cups or anything with my art on it. I saw it on clothing. I saw myself more as maybe a textile designer, but not in galleries, you know. So, so I feel accomplished
It's
and
a
excited, especially for her, because someone who
yeah.
really, she loves the attention. She can't really like express that to people, but she loves people coming up to her and talking to, even though she's not responding, she's just smiling. I can just tell she gets so excited about it. She's so excited about it.
Do you feel like you can feel it?
Yes.
I feel like each person gives off an aura, a vibration.
Hmm.
Oh my god. I don't talk about it, but that feeling, when somebody that you love, someone you care about, they're making people happy and they're like accomplishing something so amazing and you get to be there.
It's euphoric. That's how that's what I would call it.
Yeah.
You know. And then
Do
like
you
I'm sorry. She's like making she's still, that was the first thing she ever wrote to me or that I noticed was about going shopping. And she still makes a shopping list if she if something sells of hers or like when she's at shows. She's like, let's go shopping. She wants to spend that money on some nail polish and some press on nails. Not clothing. She wants nail polish and press on nails. It's like so funny and so interesting that that's her, what she gravitates to.
everybody has their
Hmm.
niche.
Hmm.
And I love that it's press on nails. Out of anything in like a beauty store, like dresses, wigs, heels,
Yeah.
pearls, no, press on
Yep.
nails.
Yep. That's her.
How do you how do you feel after all of the I mean, we're talking a few decades.
Hmm.
After all of this time,
Hmm.
where do you feel like yourself? Where do you stand right now? Like, do you feel like you're growing and you're ready for the next chapter, or you're not really sure?
I feel like we're growing and we're ready for the next chapter.
What are you looking forward to the most right now?
Being able to do more shows, being able to possibly travel to other states to do shows, and just the excitement around, built around us.
You mentioned you went to a few places. Are these places in Oklahoma or they're outside?
There, you mean the shows that we did? They were here in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were all done in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the ones that we did together, she did have the opportunity to do shows like in New York, and I don't even, it's been so long ago, but like New York, Chicago, a couple of other places, just with like people on the spectrum. She got to do shows with other people.
How? I mean, do you go with her?
Now, we did not go to those shows that were out of the state because she doesn't like to fly, so I didn't want to really drive all over the country and stuff. But we didn't go. We just kind of like. But had I known how excited she would be just being in shows locally, I would have gone. I really didn't think. In my mind, I had it pictured like she wouldn't want to be there, like she wouldn't care. She loves the attention that she gets out of an art show.
Why did you feel? Mind me asking, why did you feel that way? Why did you feel like she wouldn't be excited or be
I
happy?
think because when she does talk, it's about shopping. And so I didn't think that I really honestly did not think that an art show until I saw her do her first local art show would be exciting to her. I really didn't. And I just think because she doesn't, I had never seen her beaming like I saw her at the first show that she was in here locally. So I just didn't think, I don't know. I just think it was the nonverbal, the doesn't really like crowds, doesn't really like being around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I just thought she wouldn't like that environment. It would cause a lot of anxiety for her. And so I thought, oh, we won't even try to drive across the country. But once I saw her locally beaming and excited and happy because people were coming up and talking to her, I'm like, this is her. This is her gig here. This is her. This is her. She's at home. She loves this. She loves the attention.
It's good, and it's good when you're able to accomplish things and be able to have a self of achievement.
Hmm.
Being that the both of you are
Hmm.
artists, I feel like, do you do you see a difference between the both of you in regards to your art, the way that you
Our
draw?
creative process.
Correct.
She will. I mean, I will take weeks, months, years to complete a painting. She will do it and it is like beautiful in like a couple of hours and she's done and she's like, on to the next thing. So she doesn't fret over it. She just like does it here, done, and it's over with for her. I will look at mine for like weeks, days, months, hours, staring at it. Okay, so is it right? Is it right? She doesn't do all that. And so I like that she is not worried or concerned about it. Hey, if somebody likes it, fine. I mean, she doesn't express that, but that's how I feel. It's like if somebody likes it, fine. If they don't like it, fine. Where I'm like, I want someone to like it. Does that make sense? It's like I am like fretting and
I so I mean, first of all, this is like two
yeah,
polar
yeah,
sides of artists. And first of all, I'm on your team, okay? I am the type of artist where that line needs to no, I need to start over
yeah,
now.
exactly.
What? What? I know I need to start.
Red and yeah,
It's a line. But yeah,
yeah,
it matters. It matters. It does. It
yeah.
matters. But I'm really fascinated about artists like that. Like, I'm trying to, how do you make a painting that is gorgeous
Mhm.
in like 4 hours?
I don't know how she
What?
does it, but she does. She goes like she's just all in, and then she's like, and I'll say, "What do you want to name it? What do you want to name it?" And she's just like, she won't communicate, but it's like, wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and you're just like in awe that she did it in a few hours, that it's beautiful, and just everything that comes with that. There's so much elation and just over the moon joy in seeing her work.
I, this is just a thought. Okay. This is just a thought. I think that in many ways, autism spectrum, for in regards to art, I think is a new evolution. I think it's the next generation of humans. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it,
Hmm.
there are other species, there are other ways of communicating without words. There's ways of doing things without a lot of things that we do generally.
Hmm.
I'm it's just an idea. I mean, because, like, for example, I can't understand creating art like
Yeah,
that. It's just, but it
yeah,
happens. she does it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's just really interesting to watch, to see her in action and to see her not fretting, her being the opposite, so opposite, like you said, of me, where I'm just like, oh no, that line doesn't look right. That color, oh, the colors don't. Oh, I gotta paint over that again. Oh, just
Don't get me started with the colors.
yeah. It's like, oh my god, it's like, ooh, this kind of, ooh, I blended it differently in this spot. I got to go back. And she's just like, she does it and she's done. And it's like, and I'm like, don't you want to maybe put a couple more layers on it? Just put a little bit more paint. And she'll come back sometimes and she'll do that. But for the most part, she's like,
Ooh.
bye. I mean, I'm done. I'll see you later. I'm listening to my music. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm listening to music.
So, throughout your career and even now,
Mhm,
being the fact that like I don't know, I don't know you the two of you personally, but being you kind of have separate portfolios, where has art drawn you compared to her?
I think for me, I like to tell stories about like experiences
Okay,
through my art,
I like this.
you know, and I think for her, it's more like an extension of her obsessions. Smoking. She loves the purple flowers. So she does draw hands with long nails on them. It's like,
I saw
but
that.
for me,
Yeah,
it's more so, what story can I tell here? How can I use this to, for maybe a social justice issue, or how can I tie something that is, tearing me apart, into my art, and how can I convey that? Does that make sense?
it does. It's I like to call it the overlay
Yeah. Yeah.
because when you okay, I like to give this as an example. When you make a landscape
Hmm.
and you add in a foreshadow. So you have, mountains and there's clouds, you have blue sky, and below that you have these trees.
Hmm.
So if you want to do water, what you do is you mirror that reflection. Now people say, okay, that's easy. No, it's not that simple. You have to do is remember you have to do it
Yeah.
backwards. Because in the water it's backwards.
Yeah.
So that's a deeper layer right there.
Yeah.
So the underline and the overlay and that experimentation, I completely understand. I'm there every time.
All right. And what sort of things do you create? Is it, do you paint or draw? You like to draw with ink, right? That's what you.
I like to, yeah, I like to draw with ink. I also do digital. I do digital art.
Hmm.
I've kind of dabbled in that
Um,
for quite a bit. Um, I consider myself more of a traditionalist type of artist. I do what's called psychedelic abstract art primarily, but it's kind of my own style and my own depiction and my own story
okay.
through my own eyes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
So when you find, and I'm asking this because I'm just a bit
Hmm.
curious. When you find yourself, especially in your
Hmm.
situation, it's not always a common scenario for a lot of
Hmm.
people, where siblings come together and be able to create this hub, this connection and this, in a way, bond.
Hmm.
Have you? have you ever found anybody or any other people that were similar to like you and your sister? Were you ever able to experience that?
No, no, I have not. No.
Wow.
I'm sure there are people out there somewhere, but I have not come across. There are like here in Oklahoma City, there are sisters that are artists. They were art teachers. Now, they're retired. They're doing art, but not the same kind of like their art is more separate, if that makes sense. It's not like they're working together on their art. Does that make sense? Like it's not the same sort of togetherness, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Does that make sense?
S- Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, unique and
Yeah.
genuine. There are anybody, you can have the greatest artist in the world,
Hmm.
greatest artist in the world. If you don't have, I guess, a passion or desire to do what you're doing, it feels meaningless. It's like, okay, cool. So you're just doing this because you want to make $1 million.
Hmm.
Okay, awesome. Good luck.
Hmm.
But I feel there is a very big difference when you have art that is there because it brings people together. Brings people together because it's a story that's been told. And I mean, you've said this. I mean, in her paintings, she's drawing these depictions,
Hmm.
purple flowers, girls that are smoking, and just fascinating people. It's, I guess, a rare thing that happens
Yeah.
once in a history. How does that make you feel?
Blessed. Does that make sense? Like it feels like a blessing. Like there could be nothing. There could be no sort of communication, no sort of outward expression. And there are people who are in that situation where they have children or siblings who don't, who are on the spectrum and don't communicate at all. And so I feel like it's a blessing to us almost that we have something that we can kind of like come together on, and that we can and at the same time we are raising awareness of people on the spectrum, and that there are there are things that they can do. We just have to figure out what those things are, you know, because I believe that everybody has that ability to do something. But if they're unable to communicate, we may not be able to ever figure that out. And I'm just happy that we figured it out, that she was drawing on my homework. And I was mad. And I was like, but wait a minute, she's drawing on my homework. These are drawings. She's writing words, and I'm glad that clicked. I could have just gone on and been mad and like, oh man, now I got to do this over again for the umpteenth time. She's drawn and written on my homework, and it not ever click that she's telling us something. She is saying she wants to go shopping. She's saying that, she wants to smoke. She's saying, she's communicating, So it feels like a blessing. I'm honored that, we have that.
Having that, having that in your family, and going through that whole experience. I mean, I feel it's more than just autism awareness.
Hmm.
I think it's also being able to learn,
Hmm.
because again, I'm no spokesperson to talk about this, but I have experienced people in my life. I mean, we're talking right now, and just being able to give over so people can have an understanding of like you said, like, no, these are
Hmm.
words, not just drawings. um I think that's what helps people grow and be able to build around
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
and be able to better communicate, not only as a family but person to person.
Yeah. And then it's inspirational too, because I think other families think, that here they've got a child who doesn't communicate with them. Hey, maybe they'll like art, maybe they'll like art. I see what these girls have done, these women have done, and how they started. And maybe my child can also do that, or my brother or sister.
Yeah.
And so I think it's also inspirational to people. And I've heard that where people have encouraged their children to also do art as a form of expression because they can't communicate any other way. And so never thought about, they had never thought about it, never considered it. But here they see these two sisters doing it, and wow, and it's an epiphany. Maybe my child can do that. Maybe there's hope after all. Maybe they can't communicate in a traditional way, but here they can communicate through their art.
All right. So, unfortunately, due to audio synchronization issues, this is all we got for today's episode. But with that said, Betty was an absolute privilege to speak with, to hear her take and her experience learning to communicate with her sister through art, and just the incredible art the two of them have made. If you want to check out their work, you can find them at Betty and Rose Refour. That's Refour. And they have a wwebsite with their merchandise available as well as their artwork. Definitely check it out. It is a must to see. www.bettyandroserefour.com. And again, that's Refour.com. With that, it was an absolute privilege and a pleasure to get lost in the groove. And stay groovy, my friends. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm exhausted. Bye, everybody.